Mandibular first permanent molar has the widest mesiodistal diameter of all the teeth. It has 5 cusps and 2 root. Draw 2 horizontal lines in the wax block and the dimensions are given in the figure. Mark the cervical third area on both the buccal and lingual side. Start removing the wax above the cervical line in buccal side, and it should have a lingual tilt. Similarly, the wax has to be removed in the lingual side, but here it has to be removed below the line. The crown is wider mesiodistally than buccolingually. Draw a central line which represents the central developmental groove from mesial to distal side to divide the occlusal surface into buccal and lingual sides. On buccal half, there are two developmental grooves. Mesiobuccal developmental groove which separates the mesiobuccal cusp and distobuccal cusp, and distobuccal developmental groove which separates the distobuccal cusp and the distal cusp. On lingual side, there is lingual developmental groove which separates the mesiolingual cusp and the distolingual cusp. These grooves are represented as lines. Generally, a cusp will have a cuspal tip, cuspal triangular ridges, and cuspal slopes. Here we have 5 cusps. To create a cusp, we should draw central line which represents as triangular ridge. This line should be drawn centrally for all the 5 cusps. Taking this line as guiding line, we should remove the wax in a slopy manner on either side of this line which represents as triangular ridges. Similarly repeat for all the 4 cusps. We will be having two triangular fossas on either side, mesial triangular fossa and distal triangular fossa. So draw as shown in figure. Since there are 5 cusps, the mesiolingual cusp being the largest and distal cusp being the smallest, make sure you divide the wax block accordingly. Like explained before, the wax is removed on either side of the line on the buccal aspect to create the cuspal ridges. This has to be followed for all the cusps both in buccal and lingual side. Mark the lingual cusp. Make the developmental grooves on buccal and lingual ridges. Make triangular fossa on mesial and distal corners. Round the buccal cusp. Make the central groove little deep and start detailing the grooves. To begin with the root portion, start removing the wax on both buccal and lingual sides. There are two roots, mesial and distal root. In order to create the roots, the outline has to be drawn on both the buccal and lingual surface of the wax block. The two roots are usually of the same length and they have a slight distal tilt. The distal root is always less curved than the mesial root. Now remove the wax along the line. The undivided portion of the root is called as root trunk, and the buccal root trunk is 3 mm and the lingual root trunk is 4 mm. Remove the wax below the root trunk on both buccal and lingual side to create a through and through opening in order to separate the two roots. There are totally 5 cusps: mesiobuccal cusp, distobuccal cusp, distal cusp, mesiolingual cusp and distolingual cusp. The largest cusp is mesiolingual cusp and the smallest cusp is distal cusp. There are 2 buccal grooves and 1 lingual groove. The buccal and lingual grooves intersect in a Y pattern. Mesial marginal ridge, distal marginal ridge. This is the mesial triangular fossa, distal triangular fossa. 3 developmental grooves, 2 in buccal aspect: mesiobuccal developmental groove, distobuccal developmental groove, lingual developmental groove. Mesial root and distal root, they are almost about the same length and they have a slight distal tilt. The distal root is always less curved than the mesial root.